So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland.
The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
The Premier of Greenland and the Premier of Denmark and other Danish officials are responding to a Twitter post from your wife, Katie Miller, herself a former Trump White House official, showing Greenland covered with an American flag, saying soon. After that was posted, President Trump repeated the claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons.
Let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now, so I know you're treating this as breaking news. The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United States,
but your wife posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation.
No, but
that's why it's newly relevant.
What's up, everybody? Major retired Richard Ojeda here. And did you catch that video that was going viral on social media over New Year's Eve? Stephen Miller singing Ice Ice Baby with Kristi Noem at this gaudy, over-the-top, and probably taxpayer-funded party. A lot of people thought that it was tone deaf. A lot of people thought it was downright gross. But here's the thing. That's Stephen Miller in his comfort zone. No pushback, no questions, no accountability. Just him being the despicable person he really is on full display. Fast forward a couple of days, put him in the hot seat with Jake Tapper, and suddenly the guy completely loses his damn mind.
The Danish Prime Minister responded to this in an interview earlier today, as reported by Bloomberg, quote, "I believe one should take the American president seriously when he says that he wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War." Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
In that wild meltdown of an interview with Jake Tapper, Trump bootlicker Stephen Miller swore up and down that Greenland should be part of the United States. But the second Tapper brought up the post from Miller's wife, Katie Miller, the one showing Greenland draped in the American flag with the caption, "Soon," you could see it hit a nerve. He squirmed and awkwardly laughed before going off on a loaded tangent.
Obviously, Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm just trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out. The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
Suddenly, Miller wasn't so composed. This seemed personal. Miller went from a stick in the mud to full defense mode like, "Don't you dare talk about my wife." I mean, he didn't get up and slap Jake Tapper like Will Smith did Chris Rock, but give it a minute. The vibe was very much, "Keep my wife's name out of your damn mouth." And from there, the interview completely went off the rails. But we need to stop pretending. This is Stephen Miller doing what he's always done, pushing cruelty and manifest destiny as if they're virtues. This is a guy who has spent years designing immigration policies so evil that even people inside his own party called them inhumane.
His advisor, Stephen Miller, talking to our Jake Tapper, said, quote, "Obviously, Greenland needs to be part of the U.S." Adam, what does this signal to you?
That was one of the most psychotic interviews I've ever seen, by the way. I mean, it just really was disconcerting. Look at it. Obviously, Donald Trump has made it clear that the Western Hemisphere is America's. It's his, right? And this is a danger when you talk about, then what's the future of Russia? Is he going to allow them to kind of go into Ukraine? What does this say to China and Taiwan? It is important for Americans to understand the United States is not restricted in any way in Greenland. It's not like we have real concerns with Russian subs up there, so we try to do something and Denmark tells us no. We can pretty much do whatever we want in Greenland. So this this is an exercise in pride. If we want to try to buy Greenland from Denmark, that's acceptable or whatever, but this idea of a military takeover, it's psycho, and quite honestly, it's very dangerous for the future of NATO and general security.
Critics have compared his worldview to some of the darkest chapters in modern history because of how casually he talks about stripping people of rights and their freedom. And what you saw in Miller wasn't strength. It was a man so invested in power that the moment he's challenged, he snaps like a twig because in his world, force replaces consent and bullying replaces law.
Today, 6 of our key European allies are publicly denouncing the Trump administration's claim that Greenland rightfully belongs to the U.S., writing in a statement that the island actually belongs to its people. That statement bolsters Denmark's warnings that any American attempt to take control of the territory would endanger NATO.
This is about ego. It's about pumping up the MAGA base for war. The same people who were promised no more forever wars. And here's the real danger. Greenland is part of Denmark, a NATO ally. If the United States attacks a NATO country, that's the end of NATO, period. Danish leaders, including Mette Frederiksen, have been crystal clear about this. NATO is an alliance. This framework has been in place since the end of World War II. And losing NATO doesn't mean a bad news cycle. It means the collapse of an alliance system that's kept major powers from going to war for the past 80 years. So tell me, if you don't think Vladimir Putin is loving every second of this, you are not paying attention. Let me be honest with you. I'm worried, and I should be worried, because none of this went through Congress, not one bit of it. This was a slap in the face to Congress and the Constitution, and people need to stop pretending that it doesn't matter. And if you don't understand why Donald Trump is pushing this Greenland nonsense, you're missing the point. This isn't about security. This isn't about strategy. This is about money. Trump wants control over resources, and he wants people in power who will tell him, don't worry, you'll get your cut. We've seen this movie before. We put Manuel Noriega in power when it suited us, and when he stopped playing along, we went in and snatched him up. That's what happens when you install puppets instead of respecting sovereignty. It always blows back. Greenland doesn't belong to the United States. Venezuela does not belong to the United States. These are not our countries. The only country that belongs to the United States of America is the United States of America. It is not our job to police the world. It is not our job to topple governments. And it sure as hell isn't our job to tear apart alliances that have kept the world from going to war for decades. Also, a handful of powerful people can make more money. If we lose NATO over this kind of reckless, ego-driven nonsense, that's not a bad news cycle. That's history changing, and not in a good way. And that is what is at stake here. Look at the pattern, because we've seen this before. First, they present a lie. They take a person or a place and turn it into a villain. Then they flood the media with talking heads and rhetoric. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Just absolute nonsense, repeated over and over until people are angry and worked up. Once everybody's pissed off, they carry out something illegal, something that gets innocent people killed, and then they turn around and tell the American people that they did them a favor, that it had to be done, that it was necessary. This is their cycle of abuse. Invent a crisis, inflate it with fear, roll out the propaganda, break the law, then act like you're the hero. And now they're trying to do the same damn thing with Greenland. Same tactic over and over and over again. And let me tell you something. People like Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, they've lost their souls. You can see it in their eyes. This is what happens when you bow down to a con man like Donald Trump. They all know that this little snatch and grab routine isn't popular. The American people are pissed. Congress is pissed. And they all see the writing on the wall. Donald Trump is on his way out. And when he's gone, that orange stain is going to be permanently smeared all over every single one of them. So let me be crystal clear. When this nightmare ends, and it will end, Psychos like Stephen Miller are not just going to skate by. Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Steve Bannon, they will be held accountable, every last one of them. They don't get to rewrite history. They don't get to pretend that they were just doing their jobs. They will be remembered and judged exactly as they are. Grown men and women who bowed down to an orange buffoon and sold out their country for power. It doesn't matter what they did before. It doesn't matter what offices they held. History is going to remember them as Donald Trump's useful idiot bootlickers. And that is an absolute fact. Sappers clear the way. Airborne all the way.